I'll be able to hang in there.
What was the injury?
My knee.
What's going on, guys? Justin here with my Week 7 Packers review. So let's jump right in with what went well. The Packers win on the road to improve to 4-1-1, and they are currently the number 1 seed in the NFC. And we've seen time and time again that it is hard to win on the road in the NFL. So even though it was an inferior team, a win is a win, and I'm happy to come out of this game with a W. The offense scored 27 points yet again, and in fact, every game the Packers have won, they scored 27 points. The other 2 games being the loss to the Browns with 10 points scored, and the tie in Dallas with 40 points scored. This also puts the Packers at 7th in points scored per game with 26.3 points per game. 27 points should absolutely be enough to win games, so no complaints from me on that point total. The Packers defense had a season-high 6 sacks and forced their 3rd turnover of the year and first since Week 3. Rashawn Gary made the play, but I want to credit the entire defensive line for getting pressure on Jacoby Brissett, and Gary finished the play. Micah Parsons also set a career high in sacks with 3, which is kinda hard to believe. The special teams had no major issues for the 2nd straight week. And I don't want to jinx anything, but it does seem like they have likely figured some things out, and I appreciate the coaching staff for making these strides. Lucas Haversick also hit the longest field goal in Packers history at 61 yards. This is a bit surprising to me. It's extremely hard for me to believe that Mason Crosby's career long is only 58 yards. You're telling me he never hit a 60-yarder? Also, that means the Packers have never hit a 60-yard field goal in franchise history. In an era where this is becoming regular, I think it is so wild that that's never happened. Lastly, I want to give credit to Matt LaFleur for going for it on 4th and 2 late in the game instead of kicking a game-tying field goal. I've been saying for weeks that the Packers need to be more aggressive, as it is much easier to play offense than defense in the NFL. So put the ball in your best players' hands and let them go win the game. Early on in that drive, I said out loud that if the Packers were to score a touchdown, they win the game, and if they kick a field goal, they lose the game. Matt LaFleur likely agreed, and it worked out for the Packers. Now let's move over to what I think went bad. The offense is wildly inconsistent. They had 6 points in the first half and were a big-time throw and kick away from only 3. Sometimes they look like the best offense in the NFL, and sometimes they look like the Jets. I think the Packers need an identity on offense. In the second half of the season last year, they became a run-first team, and for the most part, it worked. Josh Jacobs is honestly the most underrated running back in the NFL, and he has the ability to carry the load of an entire NFL offense. The issue this year is run blocking. They are doing Jacobs absolutely no favors, and thus they just can't be a run-first team right now. I think the other issue is that the passing offense seems so difficult at times. I am a documented, not a dubs guy, but there are only 4 players that should be seeing about 95% of the targets on this team. Those being Dubs, Kraft, Golden, and Jacobs. Now this will get more complicated when the Packers get healthier, but each of these guys should probably be seeing 5 or more targets a game. Get the ball to your best players. Kraft had 10 targets on Sunday. That is exactly what they need. And Golden caught 3 passes on the opening drive. Awesome. But then he only caught 1 ball for the rest of the game. Not awesome. And I want to quickly talk about the first half performance again. They looked like they were just going through the motions, and unfortunately this has been a common theme with Matt LaFleur-led teams, especially on the road and especially on the West Coast. You might be able to put some of this blame on their flight delay too, which is completely out of their hands. Though, these guys are pros and making millions of dollars, so I don't love that excuse. I will credit the team for bouncing back in the second half, though it took a bit of time to get the gears moving, because on the opening drive of the second half, they went 3 and out with an illegal formation penalty. So the offense is inconsistent, but I don't think the defense is all that inconsistent. They have been consistently not that great the last few games. I don't love the coaching philosophy either. They are a very bend but don't break team, but these veteran quarterbacks are good at getting the ball out quick and taking the short passes. Then there are some very good players catching these passes like Trey McBride, and they make the most of them. The secondary needs to play closer to the line of scrimmage to let the pass rush eat. The Cardinals only punted once the entire game. The defense is not executing like they should be. 23 points to Jacoby Brissett is flat out too many. I want to emphasize and point out that the pass rush got home pretty well while the Cardinals were in the red zone. This is because the field is condensed and the Packers are less prone to allowing these short passes. You're spending like $1 billion on them, so let's make sure they are utilized to their fullest extent. The corners are also just not good enough. I have been an anti-Nixon guy for a while, and he's not great, but Nate Hobbs might be even worse. I don't know what he does well. He was previously a slot corner, but they are playing him outside and it is not working. Valentine just needs to be playing at this point. There's no way he's worse than Hobbs. At least Valentine is funny and brings some energy too. I also want to briefly discuss the Packers' timeout usage in the second half. At one point in the game, they were down 3 and the Cardinals had the ball. While lining up to go for it on 4th down, the Packers burn a timeout. At first, I was furious at using a timeout in this situation. There are only about 6 minutes left in the 4th quarter at this point, and the timeout might be needed. But it was used because the Packers had 12 men on the field during a 4th and 1. Absolutely inexcusable. Credit to Matt or whoever noticed and got that timeout in. The other timeout was used before the decision to go for it on 4th and 2 on the game-winning touchdown drive. I don't love this timeout, as if you don't get the first down, that timeout becomes that much more valuable. Thankfully, we didn't live in the timeline where this was the case. The Packers head to Pittsburgh to take on Aaron Rodgers for the very first time next week. Rodgers has a win over 31 NFL teams, only needing to beat the Packers to get a win over all 32. He and the Steelers' offense have been playing pretty well so far this season. The Packers should be able to put up points. I do think Rodgers poses the same threat that Flacco, Dak, and Brissett posed against this defense. A veteran quarterback that knows how to get the ball out quick. So catch my prediction Sunday morning for one of the biggest regular season games in Packers history.